Good morning, Year 4. I hope you're well. Welcome to today's reading session. In today's session, you're going to be summarising the events from the chapter so far. So we will have finished a new chapter today, all about smoke, and when we finish that chapter, you're going to be summarising it. And to be successful in this lesson, you will be able to identify the key words in a question. You will be able to think carefully about the order of events as they've happened. You will also be able to decide what is key information and what's just extra information. And you'll also be able to decide which statements can be suitable summaries of chapters or pages. Now, some retrieval from yesterday. I wonder if you can remember the following. So read the questions, have a think, and if you've got someone sitting next to you, have a bit of a chat with them about the answers. But if not, just think about what the answer to these questions would be. So pause the video here, have a go at these 3 questions, please. Okay, so number 1, what did Fred say was the best thing to do to stop someone from drowning? Do you remember? That's right. He said if you cup their chin, that will stop them from drowning because it will help them stay afloat in the water. Number 2, who was the last person to be spotted in the water out of all of the children? So we know that there were 2 children who were the last people, but who were the last people? Who was the very last person to actually get back onto the raft with everyone else? That's right, it was Lila, wasn't it? Because Lila and Max were both, well, Lila was trying to get Max from down the tree, and then Max was found, and then Lila was found straight after. Now, this is a bit of a prediction question here, so it's going to be different for each person. What do you think happened to the map? Because we know right at the end of what we read yesterday, Fred pulled out the map from the red leather pouch. Now, we don't know what's happened to the map. Bearing in mind they've been in water, what do you think's happened to the map? Maybe you've got different opinions, but we're going to find out today. One of our vocabulary words today comes from the quote, "You're both so defeatist," said Con. And our word is defeatist. It's a noun and it has 3 syllables, defeatist. Now, the word defeatist means someone who expects failure. Now, someone who expects to fail mean that they are often quite pessimistic. You might have heard that word before. If you are pessimistic, you're often seeing the bad in every situation. You're quite negative. Now, we could use this word by saying it's important that Year 4 aren't defeatists, as they're all brilliant learners. So Year 4 aren't pessimists because they are all brilliant learners. And you can see here a picture of someone who's obviously done a bit of exercise. They've got a fancy costume on, it looks like, and they're just on the floor laying there because they have been defeated. You know that word defeated, don't you? Defeated meaning that you're often feeling like you've done the most that you can and you can't possibly do any more. So that you are often being defeated. You have accepted that you have failed, and this person has been defeated. They are a defeatist at the moment. And the opposite of that would be an optimist. If you're an optimist, if you're very optimistic, you see the good in situations, you're very positive. A second key word from today then comes from the quote, "They coasted onwards for that whole day." So our word is coasted. Now it's a verb, it's a doing word, and because it's got that ed suffix on it, it means it's a past tense verb, so it has already happened. Now it's a 2-syllable word, coasted, and it means to move easily without using power. So you can see here that this girl is not rowing or using any motion to try and move the boat. She is just coasting down the river. In the same way that this person in the car is coasting down a long hill. We could say they were cruising, they were drifting, they were flowing, or they were gliding. And an antonym for this word coasting would be struggling, okay? Now, let's carry on reading the book where we left off. We are going to find out what has happened to the map today. You can either follow on with your finger and your eyes, or you can read it too, but I will be reading with you, okay? The ink on the map had run so badly that it was no more than a blackish smudge. The paper itself was pulp, and as he passed it to Lila, it tore in 2. He swallowed. "Sorry," he whispered. Lila looked as though she might cry. "Don't be," she said. There was an impatient tut behind them, a sort of cho, and the sound of scratching. "You're both so defeatist," said Con. She had pulled a flint from her pocket and, as they watched, she tore a strip of bark from the raft and began etching something onto it. "There, that was a squiggle, and that was where the river curved," she said. "Your photogenic memory," said Max. "Photographic," said Con. She kept scratching. "There," she said. "What do you think? Does that look right?" Fred studied her map. "It does look almost exactly—" "Not almost exactly, exactly," said Con sharply. "I was just being polite, actually. I know it's right." So she's using her photographic memory from the previous chapter that she told us all about, and she's been able to find the way back without having the map in front of her, which is excellent. Fred looked at the bark and then up at Lila, at Max, and Con. "Whatever it is that's on the map, it's got to be better than what's back there. What do you say?" That same feeling, fear and hope, and something that felt like what his father called sheer mindedness, began to churr inside his stomach. Con bit her lip. Then, without a word, she took up the pole again and pushed the raft back off the bank, back into the river and the corridor of dappled green light. "Left at the next fork?" she asked. "Left at the next fork," said Lila. They coasted onwards for that whole day. Some of the tributaries were only 8 feet across. You remember what a tributary is? That's right, it's that pan of water that is in a stream and it goes out into a big more pool of water, such as a lake or a river, with a cathedral roof of branches above them creating a midnight darkness. Others were so wide and bright it was hard to see the opposite shore. As the sky grew pink, Fred turned and saw on the far bank a caiman as big as a Great Dane. It lay in mud, its eyes at half-mast, staring straight ahead. His heart clenched. Remember what a caiman was? That's it, it was like an alligator, wasn't it? So they're feeling quite scared about that at the moment. "What do we do?" hissed Con. She spoke without moving a single facial muscle. "Nothing," said Lila. Fred held the pole in his hands like a spear, but the caiman didn't move as they floated past. The sun dipped lower over the river ahead of them. The light grew purplish and thin. Fred could no longer see beneath the surface of the water. "We're not safe, are we?" asked Con. "No," said Fred, "but we could pretend we are." Lila tightened her grip on Bacca's paw. "Let's act as if the river's on our side. Let's act as if the jungle wants us to win." The stars began to come out, casting the water deep black under a silver-flecked sky. Even if rivers don't take sides, even then. So we have learned today that they're feeling a little more anxious and on edge than usual. And today we're going to be summarising the chapter. We are going to be using the number it questions. So these type of questions will give you a different sentences from or about the text, and you have to number them to show which order they appear in. Now let's try one together, then it's going to be your turn, because this question is a bit tricky. It gives you lots of scenarios and they often are quite similar to each other. Now this is using the pages that we've read today. So it says number the following sentences from 1 to 4 to show the order in which they happen. The first one has been done for you, and we can see the first one here is that Con pulled a flint from her pocket. Do you remember what a flint was? That's right, a flint was one of those hard grey rocks, and they're often quite sharp. They can be used for making dents in things, like she did with the bark, didn't she? Now let's have a go at reading the rest of them and see if we're thinking of what has happened so far and whether we know the order before we look at the text. So the first one says they coasted onwards for the whole day. Fred saw on the bank a huge caiman, and Con took up the pole again and pushed the raft off the bank. Now we're thinking of the keywords here. Some of our keywords I'm thinking, well, I'm numbering them from 1 to 4. They are showing the order, so that means it's going to go from first to second, from third to fourth. I'm going to make sure that it's what happened then what happened, then what happened. I'm not just going to choose a random order. Now, what I can do next is find the pages where this information will be. And I can start to read and I can see, My first statement is Con pulled a flint from her pocket. So that is my number 1. And I can start reading. I can almost skim read because I don't need to read this out loud. I can skim read until I find another one of my statements. And I can see that so far there is none of my statements. She took up the pole again and pushed the raft off the bank. Have I got that statement here? Yes, I have. So that must be number 2. And then I can carry on reading. I can see, they coasted onwards for that whole day. And I can see that that is here. So that is number 3. And then I can see, keep reading. It's talking about tributaries. Have I got anything about tributaries here? No, I don't. But I can see here that I've got something about a Great Dane. Now I remember that they saw a caiman as big as a Great Dane. And that is here. And that must be number 4. Now that was easy because they were all on the same page. I could easily just read the page, and when I saw a statement I could marry it up with my table, and then I could put the correct number in there to show which order it happened. But some of them aren't that easy because this is to do with all of the events that have happened in the whole story so far. So what I would like you to do is pause the video, think about the events that have happened in the whole story, label them from 1 to 4, and the first one has been done for you. So pause the video now, label them from 1 to 4, please. Off you go. Okay, so if I'm thinking about my keywords here, I'm thinking of the word events. Now, they're not just sentences this time. They are big events that have happened in the story. And again, we are talking about the order. We are going from first, this happened, then, next, and finally. So I'm thinking, well, the first thing that I know has happened that I've been given is that Fred used wood to make a raft. Now, I'm thinking there was a fire in the clearing, but that has only just happened. It was quite a bit after they used the wood to make the raft. So I'm going to put that near the end of my order so far. And my second statement is Fred climbed a tree to retrieve some honey. Now, that definitely happened before the fire. Now, did that happen after the wood to make a raft? Definitely. So that could be my number 2. But to really understand whether it's number 2 or number 3, I need to read my last statement. And this is where they found a red pouch. Now, where were they when they found a red pouch? They were up the tree, weren't they? So they must have climbed a tree before they found the red pouch. So that means that when we climb the tree, that would be number 2. Then they found the red pouch, and then there was a fire in the clearing. Fantastic. Now, your job today is to decide, number 1, which statement is the best summary for page 160. So you need to read 160 again, which is in your resource pack. Read the statements and think of what is the best summary for the whole of page 160. Not just a line or a paragraph, the whole of the page. Then this one is to number the following sentences, and this is all about the chapter that we have read so far. So not just the pages from today, the whole of the chapter about the smoke. So this, I wonder if you can remember. Then we are looking at a suitable summary of the whole chapter that we've read. And then finally, different summaries from different paragraphs of this text, okay? So, text so far, all right? Okay, plenary today then. Look at the following sentences. So, number 1, the children made a sack with Max's jumper for the bananas. And number 2, there was a fire in the clearing. The children had to go to the river. Can you decide whether they are giving you key information or whether they are giving you extra information? One of them is giving you key information. The other one is giving you extra information. Can you pause the video now and have a go? Okay, so let's have a think then. The children made a sack with Max's jumper for the bananas. Well, that isn't a key event, is it? That just gives me that extra information. And then the second one is key information. That fact that there was a fire in the clearing, that is a huge event because it impacts what they did on the river, doesn't it? So that's definitely key information. Okay, wonderful listening today, Year 4. Well done. I'm really excited to see all your lovely summaries and how well that you've ordered the events. See you in our next lesson. Bye.